What is up, guys? Pittsburgh Weiss Schwartz back again with another Rush rundown for you. This time we're going to go over Haruhi and the English competitive metagame. This will be a quick, concise overview of Haruhi's strengths, weaknesses, and notable cards that you will need to know in order to effectively play into it, all in 10 minutes or less. While these videos aren't meant to be totally comprehensive, we've included a lot of information in this video, so feel free to pause it if we're moving too fast for you. Alright, let's jump right into it. So Haruhi unfortunately also suffers from being a slightly older set in Weiss Schwartz. However, they do have some fairly potent meme effects that can catch you off guard if you are not ready for them, and that is the purpose of this video, is to provide that information to you so that you can be ready for those effects so you don't get caught off guard by them. Haruhi most of the time will not be fishing for reverses, except for with a couple choice cards, maybe one of their Blinking Time Machines at level 1. They also have a Clean Cut at level 0 that can be power buffed. That's something to be aware of, but most of the time you probably won't have to worry about it. So moving on to our first card here, or cards rather, we have Time Machine effect in Haruhi, which consists of a number of cards that can pop themselves to memory and then back to the board during the Haruhi player's turn, not leaving reverse targets for you. So be aware Haruhi has the ability to pop their cards out of the way, especially if you're playing a deck that is looking to score reverses, particularly at level 1. Moving on to our next card here, we have this level 3 Nagato. This card is particularly spicy. On play, it allows the Haruhi player to rearrange all of the cards on their opponent's board. Also something to note is that this card does not select, does not choose, so it goes through hexproof, goes through Attack on Titan's Armin, moves the cards around however the Haruhi player likes. If this card scores a reverse on the turn that it is played, so allows the Haruhi player to heal, which oftentimes it will since the Haruhi player is rearranging the cards on their opponent's board, usually moving the back row cards up to the front. Our next card here is this level 0 Gate Support Haruhi. Gives frontal 500, kind of negligible. The big effect is when the Haruhi player triggers a gate, they are able to pay 1 stock and send a level 1 or lower character from their opponent's front row to the waiting room. This is something to be aware of if your deck is trying to hold board at level 1, or your deck has some particularly valuable card that you keep in the front row around that time of game. The effect does fall off later, since after level 1, there usually aren't too many high priority level 1s to remove in the front row, and also oftentimes Haruhi will only be running 4 gates, one of their 2 climaxes, so this effect won't be popping off too often. Just something to be aware of. Next card here is a anti-brainstorm tech Mikuru. When the Haruhi player's opponent hits a brainstorm, hits a climax with their brainstorm, the Haruhi player can discard a card and neg 2000 power from any character on their opponent's board. This includes back row characters. So if you playing into Haruhi have a high value card that you keep in your back row with 2000 or less power, definitely be cautious about hitting your brainstorms, since that card could be sent to the waiting room. So be prepared to either be holding a second copy of that card or to be ready to encore it straight up and save it. Next card here is another Mikuru. This card is an anti-event tech. This card combos with a bar and disallows the Haruhi player's opponents from playing any event cards through the end of their next turn. If you are playing an event-focused deck, definitely beware that this card exists. Oftentimes, Haruhi decks will not be playing this. Keep an eye out if you see that bar flow into their waiting room, see this card flow into their waiting room, and you are playing an event-heavy deck, definitely be aware that they can shut your events off for a turn. They have that ability. This next card is yet another Mikuru. This Mikuru on play allows the Haruhi player to pay 1 stock and to disallow their opponent from playing any climax cards until the end of their next turn. This is a card that you will see fairly often in Haruhi builds. If you are going into one of your more potent finisher turns, be aware that Haruhi can throw this card down and prevent you from popping off with your climax for an extra turn. They can buy themselves some time. Something else to note is this card gives the character in the position across from it -1 soul. So in addition to preventing their opponent from pushing damage with climaxes, they also negate a little bit of damage that way as well. As far as counters are concerned in Haruhi, they have some pretty typical ones. Big thing that you need to be concerned about is this 2-0 event counter, Release of Information Binding. This card, similar to the Mikuru on the previous slide, is a Climax hate tech. This card sends a Climax directly from the opponent's Climax area to the waiting room, effectively negating any sort of on-reverse combo or any combo that happens after that during Encore Step or what have you. So be aware that Haruhi has the ability to disrupt your combo turns pretty heavily. Haruhi unfortunately doesn't have a lot of ways to deal with any sort of anti-change or big things that the opponent might throw out fairly early. Their best option is this 2-2 yellow event, which sends any character on their opponent's stage to the opponent's stock. This card is both a hefty stock out for the Haruhi player, since they don't build stock all that well, and they also are forced to play this event instead of a character. Common builds that you'll see in Haruhi are the Haruhi-focused 2-soul into gate builds and the Nagato alien trait-focused 8-book builds. But all in all, you aren't really able to level lock Haruhi. They have clock bonds, they can level themselves to level 1 if need be early on in the game, though I wouldn't worry about it too much since their level 1 is fairly weak and oftentimes doesn't require reverse anyway. Haruhi, like I said, is not very well equipped to deal with anti-changes or large things that their opponent might throw down early, aside from that expensive 2-2 event. The most popular build that you will see is probably the 2-soul into gate Haruhi-centric build, the yellow-red build. Haruhi's main purpose, though, is to try to catch you off guard with these strong, almost meme effects that you aren't expecting and don't see very often in Weiss Schwarz. Definitely keep anything that might impact the deck that you're playing in mind, though you probably won't see Haruhi very often going into these events, as it's a pretty weak set all around. The power level of the cards is fairly low. They aren't good at winning board. They don't keep hand very well. They don't generate stock very well. Yeah, so as I said, don't expect to see this set very often, but if you do happen to run into it, keep the cards that might screw your deck over in mind. And that's basically it for Haruhi. If you liked this video, be sure to drop a like or a comment. Let us know how we did, that really helps us out. We'll be releasing more Rush Rundown every Monday and Wednesday as we do, along with our usual deck techs on Fridays. Here on this last slide, we have the links that we drop at the end of all of our videos, and we will also link some sample Haruhi deck lists in the description below if you'd like some more in-depth examples of how to build this set or what you can expect to see playing into it at a larger scale event. And with that, I think we're done. Pittsburgh Weiss Schwarz, signing off. We'll see you in the next video.